Hello, good morning, everybody. This is fantastic. I have to say, I'm really excited. So if you feel me, coming off this a little bit hot, it's just that I've been waiting a very long time to have the opportunity. I uh, hope I'll do well. Here we go. Hello, thanks to the California Task Force for the invitation, to Miss Alicia Turner for getting me here, and my friend screenwriter C.S. Trotman for her help. She helped me get prepared today. I appreciate the work to speak with you today. I've been trying to get government attention for a while, so if I'm here now, that means all my good troublemaking has not been in vain. My name is Erika Alexander, and I'm an actress. I've been an actress for nearly 36 years. You may have seen my work, and if you haven't, there's still time. Don't worry. Thank goodness for syndication. But through the years, I've expanded my skill set and added to my resume. Now I'm a writer, producer, director, and co-founder of Color Farm Media. We call ourselves the Motown of film, television, and tech. And I had to learn those skills in order to survive and thrive in a business that has for years traded on toxic narratives that were designed to create me and minority communities as the other. We have made progress, and for that I am grateful to those who paved the way and for abolitionist creators determined to destroy those stereotypes. But along the way, I learned a thing or two about being human and influencing narratives so I can bear witness to the power of story as a mighty tool towards making reparations for African Americans today and in the future. So here's what I want to talk about: storytelling. If you ain't in the storytelling business, you ain't in the game. Everything is about narratives, everything. And those who control the narratives control the world. Activists. I'll tell you what I learned from great activists who are for reparations and others who are against, why they tell the best stories and why that matters. Theory. Why storytelling is the vehicle to move hearts and minds of Americans toward reparations. And techniques. I'll discuss how key narrative devices help the medicine go down. Today, I'm here as a journeyman storyteller and explorer, returned from the front lines in Badlands called Storyville. And I'm here to tell you how to sell the story of reparations. To start, I'll tell you my story. It's an origin story. I worked in TV and film. Some of you may probably know me from The Cosby Show or Living Single or Get Out. You may know me as the producer of the recent Good Trouble John Lewis documentary. There he is behind me. And I'm proud to be a working actor. I'm one of the lucky ones. Because before all of that, I was just a Black girl from the mountains of Flagstaff, Arizona. My mother was a teacher. My father was an itinerant preacher. They were both orphans. They had 6 kids. We lived in the Starlight Motel's 2-bedroom shack off of Route 66. It was tough, and we did a lot of dumpster diving. I started work around 5 years old, knocking on doors, asking for jobs, sweep the porch, or take out the trash. My brothers, they were stronger. They would shovel snow. And when they got it, a $20 bill was mythological. That was the way it was until one day fate stepped in and my father, a Kojic Pentecostal and Baptist preacher, was discovered by the German Lutherans. They thought he was special and sent him to the Lutheran Theological Seminary in Philadelphia. And life changed for me. Suddenly, there were more opportunities. My mother sent me to an arts program in the summer. And when a Merchant Ivory independent film came to town in the 5th week of that 6-week program, they held an open call looking for girls of color to audition. I, along with hundreds of girls from the tri-state area, showed up, hoping for a miracle. When the smoke cleared, a miracle happened. They chose me for the lead. I was discovered there in a basement theater called New Freedom. That first job got me a union SAG card, health care, and a career. I was 14, and I've been trying to make good on being the one that got over ever since. Story. Now that you know mine, I'm no longer a stranger or just a face on a screen. I'm more human. And I believe in reparations for descendants for African Americans as a way to heal a nation that has yet to reform, repair, or apologize for its heinous history. Reparations will need creators and great storytellers to use their powers to lift it above the clouds. Storytelling is the most powerful tool for change in the world. See, most people cannot remember the details beyond the way something makes them feel. Story is the conduit to our mind, but once a seed is planted, it's the quickest way to our heart. My friend and mentor, Reverend William Barber II, is a master storyteller, the gold standard for the power of story and its might to create right. To have this discussion, I'll borrow his signature framework called the Third Reconstruction. In it is a moral, constitutional, and economic call for reparations. Reverend Barber, a MacArthur Genius Fellow, is senior pastor of the Greenleaf Christian Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina. He is also co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, started by Martin Luther King Jr. Reverend Barber says, I don't separate morality from economics. I don't think America can be if she doesn't ultimately deal with this issue, the legacy of systemic racism, and how it continues to hold the country back. Reverend Barber is the creator in this story, a world builder. He says, we are the architects of the third Reconstruction. All right, now, just right there, you set up a little straighter in your seat, because with that one phrase, he recreates you as a character with a purpose in a more dynamic world. Our everyday ordinary just became mythological. He believes that you have to have a place to shift imagination, prophetic moral imagination, before you could have the hope of political and public policy implementation. In storytelling terms, he helped me see the arc's history. First Reconstruction after slavery, the second after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Reverend Barber gave me a perspective from slavery's end through civil rights to the turbulent journey we're on today. Now, slavery, its effects and deformities don't feel so far away. With that knowledge, Americans are assured a place inside history. That's what woke is. You consciously making history in your own time. Now, reparations are within our grasp. The challenge is to awaken others into joining this journey. The third Reconstruction is in progress. Barber has the blueprint. He's given us the compass. Now we can start drafting. No experience necessary, but imagination is essential. We'll need that to move the reparations conversation forward. If this is the third Reconstruction, then we are all the architects of it, all of us. Surely that is a higher calling. But be forewarned, if it only took reason to make a season, all our days would be 72 and sunny. But this ain't Hollywood. There'll be real Katrinas and other storms to endure. We can succeed, but we'll need to declare that we are responsible for a better tomorrow. Reverend Barber's superpower, and he has many, is shifting that every day to a brighter way. Reverend Barber declared this is the third Reconstruction. Believe him, and let's get on our way. Our next master storyteller is Saru Jayaraman. As an archetype, Saru is a modern-day warrior, battle cat. In real life, she's the president of One Fair Wage and the director of the Social Movement Center at the University of California, Berkeley. And she leads an army alongside people like Reverend Barber and other grassroots justice organizations, working daily to advance the moral agenda and uplift service workers' voices on the historic and continued abuses of tipped wage workers. Saru's mission is to destroy the tipped wage economy, a holdover from slavery, and redress the tremendous gap in wealth between Black and white households. The effects of accumulated inequality and discrimination, as well as differences in power and opportunity that can be traced back to slavery in this nation's inception. She approaches this complex issue by telling us a story about a practice we all do that holds the nation's poorest people and women together in poverty. Tips. It's a powerful message for people to understand what's at the end of their fork and why it's there. Making the invisible visible is its own clarifier and can move many from day tripper down from the cheap seats to the dugout. Our next master storyteller is a killer and a wordsmith. He uses his tremendous vocabulary and first-rate mind to chisel a new image for the lost tribe. Michael Killer Mike Rinder. I met him earlier this year when making our documentary and podcast about reparations called The Big Payback with my white male co-director, Whitney Dow. It's because of the podcast and not my killer smile, unfortunately, that I imagined I was invited here. But during those projects, we had great conversations with Michael Killer Mike Rinder, one of the best storytellers on this hot blue rock and a disruptor for social justice and a leader in Barber's third Reconstruction. As a rapper and activist, he has street cred, charisma, and bold appeal that's rooted in his authenticity. In storytelling terms, he's a shapeshifter and a trickster, able to move between class, commerce, and politics as an artist and intellectual. Michael uses his influence to reach a segment of America's most marginalized citizens, Black men, inviting them into a complex discussions that are engineered to benefit them, their families, and their communities, but they are rarely invited to contribute in a meaningful way. Michael is their emissary. He is able to convey a bigger picture of how reparations can empower them now, but also future generations to greater heights. He speaks to their aspirations to engage their appetite for Imagineering, to borrow a Disney term, to create their future now. Sure, he believes in reparations, but his approach is holistic. He says, as long-term systemic purposeful organizations and systems set up and put, for the first time, Black people who were brought here as beasts and chattel on a pathway to having their full rights and privileges recognized and enjoyed. Through Michael's lens, we can also envision the greatness reparations can build in African American communities, not just as cash payments, but through land grants and lotteries, plus exemptions from taxation, forgiveness of federal loans, and etc. If you begin with equal footing, as he puts it, then it's possible to scale to new heights. Only dare to imagine bigger, and we can, because he's a product and the endorsement. The message he's sending works precisely because it is aspirational and motivational. It cuts through the noise and confusion, and he keeps it relatable. There are and were others like him through the years, most notably James Foreman, who crashed a Sunday service at Riverside Church in Morningside Heights on May 4th, 1968, to deliver his Black Manifesto demanding $500 million in reparations from white religious establishments, or, as he said, $15 a nigger. That woke them up that morning on his Straight Talk Express. Though these types of folks may make people nervous, we'll need more shapeshifters to shake it up and not hide behind politeness and respectability politics. Katrina Brown. Every great story needs its villain, and though Reparations has many, our next storyteller volunteered for the position. Her name is Katrina Brown. Katrina is the descendant of the DeWolf family in Rhode Island, and they are the largest slave traders in North America. Katrina learned of her family's history from her grandmother and has since taken personal accountability for their actions. In doing so, she willingly placed herself in this story as her family's proxy for the brutality, greed, and evil of white supremacy. Katrina gives life to the ever-present white shadow hanging from sea to shining sea. To admit that her family was the largest slave trading family in U.S. history is a mea culpa of epic proportions. A powerful position and strike citizens as participants in an ongoing modern conversation of slavery, racism, and its systemic nature, instead of past disassociation in a bygone era. Katrina and some of her family members even took a step to travel to Africa as an act of reparations to apologize for their involvement. That brings it home. No hide and seek there. Yvette Carnell's approach to some may be considered controversial, but her style and delivery are effective. Yvette Carnell is the co-founder of ADOS, or African Descendants of Slavery, and her buzzword is specificity. She is speaking to and for the defendants of American slavery only. The core of the issue is, who is eligible? Who's Black enough for reparations? That's what we call it on the podcast. Her answers would say to the folks who were harmed the most, the descendants who paid with flesh, blood, and pain, the hundreds of years money ball that created the U.S. endless revenue stream. Her words create excitement and exclusivity to that audience. She speaks in the first person to the first persons. She's on a linear quest, and she's a threshold guardian for a specific group, the children of American slaves. She says, the descendants of chattel slavery have made a different and heavier contribution to America than anybody else, and did it unwillingly, and we got abused because of it. And we have a specific cost. Now, when you have a specific cost, that means a specific payment. Thus, they suffered what she calls an accrued disadvantage. She does not disavow the harm of slavery to others, but says those who came here voluntarily would not be eligible for reparations, but would have access to our Black agenda in terms of our collective lived experience. As we go along, we'll find reparations work is like a Rubik's Cube. We'll keep turning the tiles until they align in a way that makes sense, but hope that one day we reach a good consensus to make reparations a reality. Another effective advocate are the people fighting against it. Larry Elder is one such person. He is a conservative and failed candidate for California governor. He's also a successful radio personality. Every great story has powerful forces that work against its goals. In fact, Reverend Barber, the creator of our story word and the architect of the Third Reconstruction, asked me to quote educator and theologian Howard Thurman. The measure of a man's estimate of your strength are the kinds of weapons he feels he must use in order to hold you fast in a prescribed place. We know the type of weapons they've just deployed over the years. We call them good, bad guys, fate, karma, luck. But let's not assign a motive. Let's talk about the methods used to speak to the counter audience or the arch-conservative Larry Elder fans. When he took the stage and made a case for reparations to the slave owners. Again, not to the actual descendants of slaves, but to their torturers. His argument, though specious, is effective with a huge segment of our country. As a storytelling tactic, that reversal or twist, it's awesome because it upsets expectations. By fighting against reparations and arguing for the slave owners for damages or reparations, he makes the entire subject radioactive. You've seen it happen before with critical race theory, the 1619 Project, and Black Lives Matter. Larry Elder says, like it or not, slavery was legal. Their legal property was taken away from them after the Civil War. So an argument could be made that the people owed reparations are not just Black people, but the people whose property was taken. So you may not dig that message, but the news outlets do, and so does Graham. That soundbite resonates with his arch-conservative audience and liberals, especially because he's an African-American. But the real benefit is that it sows chaos, doubt, and exhaustion in the entire population. Now the conversation is no longer about who's responsible or remedy, and being an unreliable narrator in a tragic comedy, he uses his exposition as ammunition. It's as good as shooting a firearm in a crowded theater because the effect is similar, chaos. How can you create possibility and make progress in that atmosphere? And that rhetorical device is reliable. It works. When it works, he's victorious, effectively reorienting and shifting blame on the victim and heaping empathy and a new perspective on the wrongdoer. Finally, this all brings me to a surprising turn of events in this 400-year slavery drama, and perhaps its most notable story I could tell you today about the determined young ingenue in this passion play, Evanston, Illinois, 5th Ward Alderwoman, Robin Rue Simmons. Now, she's an all-star in anyone's playbook, and a first, like the moonwalker John Glenn. Dubbed the Rosa Parks of reparations, Robin did something no one has ever done. She passed the first reparations bill in American history. And in true heroes fashion, she did it in the year of the return, 2019, the 400 years since we arrived enslaved in 1619. It was an auspicious year indeed. Uniquely made for this moment, Robin traveled to Africa and came home inspired by the idea of reparations as a tool in Evanston, Illinois. Though she was a novice herself to the idea of reparations, she knew how to maneuver in her town's local political space. Tying its funding to recent legislation in Illinois, legalizing marijuana, she knew she had to move fast to assign a percentage of that new revenue stream toward reparations agenda for African Americans who lived in her city. It was a genius move because it did not require residents to pay or redirect city funds. And it tapped a new income source, drawing on that recreational marijuana tax revenue. Though she is our ingenue and hero in this story, she has the political instincts of a national player, using the element of surprise and capitalizing on the city's relative ignorance of the decade-long reparations debate and struggle. And she got the bill passed to an 8-1 mostly white council. She just put her head down, got it done. Like any hero, she has personal stakes and understood the dramatic disparity between the properties available to whites versus the lack of access for Black home buyers. And she became determined to help correct that inequity in Evanston. Their big payback is redressing discriminatory housing policies. Like all heroes, she's paying the price for her success. Stress, death threats, anxiety, exhaustion. But she sees its worst because she says this is our nation history, not just Black history, which Evanston, the little town that could, proved when right-thinking white people were moved to action with historic results. Robin is preceded and matched in Washington, D.C. by the awesome Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee with her push for H.R. 40, a bill to study reparations started by the late Detroit Congressman John Conyers, and her successful passing of the new holiday Juneteenth. Now that is a storytelling engine of tremendous proportion. Again, the element of surprise in her favor, her opposing party passed the holiday. I see it as effectively getting weeks of marketing, branding, celebration, and education around the subject of American slavery, freedom, and the legacy that created the conditions for it to flourish. In other words, it's critical race theory. They didn't see it coming. It's a Trojan horse. Story is a smuggler too. And it's the best smart power we have to change the world. If we tell a better, truer story, we can disrupt the evil story white racists have that tells him that he can murder us in broad daylight with impunity. We can change the narrative and rebrand Blackness to recreate us as human. So he will finally get his knee off our neck. One last nod to other interesting archetypes in the reparations fight, including the billionaire Tom Steyer, as well as the pioneers Callie House and Queen Mother Moore. Their stories and their ability to recruit partners and collaborators because of their storytelling ability made a way out of no way. We must see story as the first line of defense and the most effective offense we have to make progress. If we are to make a better world for reparations, we must tell a better story. As part of my personal journey and professional mission, I'll continue to do my part to create the conditions for change in the national reparations conversation for African Americans. Our success here and nationally will have global implications. Good. We end our story with the powerful, unvarnished truth, to quote the economist and professor Julian Malveaux, who was wary of using the term reparations too broadly or too narrowly. In her view, it must encompass awareness as well as compensation for what's been lost or rather taken. She says reparations is about justice denied and justice attained. So let us all seek justice. Thank you.